You ever catch how dogs pick up on things before we do? Not because they understand more, but because they don't wait for proof. My dog, Harper, started staring at the corner of my living room early in March. Same place every night, the angle where the TV stand met the wall, near the baseboard heater. She'd sit at the edge of the rug, back straight, head slightly tilted, like she was waiting for something to finish happening. She wasn't scared. That was the part that bothered me. She just wouldn't look away. It started after the power outage. The storm had come through fast. Wind hard enough to rattle the windows, rain slapping the siding sideways. I was half asleep on the couch when everything went dark. No big deal. Old neighborhood, above ground lines. Happened a couple times that year. When the power came back, I remember Harper standing up all at once. Not barking, not whining, just alert. Her eyes went straight to that corner, like someone had stepped into the room without making noise. I said her name. She didn't respond. I clapped once. Nothing. That was the first moment I felt that little internal shift. The one where you realize something's off and immediately start figuring out how to make it normal again. During the day, the house felt fine. Sunlight softened everything. The corner looked like what it was. A wall, some outlets, a scuffed baseboard from when the previous owners had a couch shoved too close. Harper acted mostly like herself. She ate, she followed me around while I got ready for work. She slept under my desk while I answered emails. But every night, right around when I turned off the lights, she went right back to that spot. You learn to accommodate pets. I moved her bed closer to where she liked to sit. When that didn't help, I tried redirecting with her toys. She ignored them. If I physically turned her away, she'd circle back and sit down again, eyes fixed on the same place. I joked about it with coworkers. Dogs fixate, I said. They hear things we don't. Old pipes, mice. One guy told me his dog used to stare at the ceiling fan for hours. That was enough explanation for me. Still, I checked for pests. The exterminator didn't find anything. No droppings, no scratching sounds in the walls. He knocked on the drywall, listened, shrugged. Said houses settle. Said animals react to vibrations long after we stopped noticing them. When he left, Harper went straight back to that corner. A few nights later, I started hearing it too. Not a sound exactly, more like pressure. A low, uneven thrum that came and went. I noticed it when the house was quiet, when the refrigerator cycled off and the neighborhood traffic died down. It seemed strongest near the baseboard heater, right where Harper stared. I told myself it was the pipes cooling, or airflow, or my imagination catching up with hers. That was when she stopped sleeping through the night. I'd wake up and find her sitting in the hallway, facing the living room. Sometimes she'd whine softly, like she wanted to come in the room, but couldn't make herself cross that threshold. Once, when I tried to coax her forward, she dug her nails into the carpet and pulled back. I should have taken that more seriously. Instead, I started documenting things. Not obsessively, just notes in my phone. Times she stared, times she refused to eat. The fact that the corner of the room always felt warmer than the rest, even when the heat was off. I told myself I was being responsible. I also told myself I'd deal with it properly once work slowed down. A week later, Harper growled at the wall. It was the first time I'd ever heard her do that. Low, steady, not aggressive so much as firm. She leaned forward, hackles raised, staring at the baseboard like it might move. I pressed my hand against the wall where she had focused. It was warm, not hot. Just warmer than it should have been. I stood there longer than I needed to, hand on the wall, waiting for the heat to even out. It didn't. That night I slept on the couch, partially to keep an eye on her, partially because I didn't like the idea of leaving her alone with whatever she thought was happening in that room. Sometime after midnight, she climbed up beside me, sat instead of lying down, faced the corner. I remember thinking that if she was going to keep watch, the least I could do was stay awake with her. The next morning, I called a heating technician. He checked the thermostat, the systems, the vents, said the heater was old but functional. When I mentioned the warm spot, he shrugged and said heat traveled strangely in older houses, suggested replacing the unit in the next couple of years, and left me a card. I didn't push. After that, things got even harder to ignore. Harper stopped eating unless I sat on the floor with her. She paced at night. She started flinching at sounds she used to sleep through. Once, when a truck backfired outside, she bolted for the hallway and planted herself in front of the living room like she was guarding it. I took her to the vet and explained the behavior changes. The vet asked about stressors. I said nothing had changed. That was a lie, but I didn't know how to explain what was happening without sounding like I'd lost perspective. The vet suggested anxiety medication. I filled the prescription. It helped a little. Harper slept more. She ate again. But when she was awake, her eyes still drifted back to that corner. I started spending less time at home. I stayed late at work. I ran errands slowly. I told myself Harper was better off resting, that hovering over her wasn't going to fix anything, that once the weather warmed up, whatever was causing the issue would probably resolve itself. This smell started in April. Faint at first, like dust heated too long, then stronger, metallic. I noticed it when I came home after being out all day. It was always strongest near the living room, right by the wall that Harper watched. I opened the windows, bought air fresheners, told myself it was something seasonal. One night, Harper refused to come inside after her walk. She planted herself on the porch and shook. When I picked her up, she trembled against my chest the whole way through the door. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I called the city, asked about gas leaks, electrical issues, anything like that. They told me if I suspected an emergency, I should evacuate and call emergency services. I stood in the kitchen, phone in hand, looking toward the living room. Harper sat in the hallway, staring. I told myself I was overreacting. I decided to spend a few nights elsewhere. Took Harper to a friend's place across town. The difference was immediate. She slept, ate, played, followed me around like herself again. I told myself that was proof it was the house, not her. I also told myself that since we'd left, whatever was wrong would settle on its own. We went back a few days later, and the smell was stronger. I didn't even make it fully inside before the smoke alarm went off. It wasn't smoke. Not really, just heat. The baseboard heater had warped the wall enough to expose wiring behind it. Insulation had been slowly scorching for weeks. The fire department said if we'd waited much longer, it could have gone up properly. They asked me when I'd first noticed the problem. I thought about Harper, about the staring, the growling, the nights she wouldn't sleep. I said I wasn't sure. I don't live there anymore. The house was deemed unsafe until repairs could be made, and I didn't argue. I moved into a small apartment with new wiring and no baseboard heaters. Harper's better now, mostly. Sometimes when we're settling in for the night, she'll pause and look toward a corner of the room. Not for long, just a glance, like she's checking something that used to matter. I tell myself it's habit. But every time, I think about how long she tried to warn me and how carefully I explained it away. She wasn't afraid of the corner. She was afraid that I wasn't paying attention. And I tell myself every day that it was about that wiring.